Evening, everyone. Welcome to CB11's Youth and Education Meeting. This is September 12th, 2023. It is now 6:31 and we begin the meeting. The meeting is called to order at 6:31 tonight. We are joined by Khalid Nixon, who is our Assistant District Manager. I just want to go over a few ground rules to make sure that the meeting runs efficiently. No one may speak until granted the floor. CB11 members, if you have a question about board business or wish to make a motion, please raise your hand and wait to be recognized. To raise your hand through Zoom, click participants icon. You will find the raise hand function there. I'm sure many of us have already remembered how to be in Zoom, and we're learning how to be back live again. Right. Members should not engage in back and forth discussion. The chair will recognize the next person to speak upon raising their hands. The chat function should not be used for CB11 business or questions about agenda topics. All such remarks should be made on the record when recognized. Please keep questions and comments to a minimum. Members of the public, if you have a question or comment about the subjects on the agenda, please raise your hand and wait to be recognized. We will now do the roll call.
Okay, members. So there are 11 committee members in total. 6 are needed for quorum. Karim Kauser. Rosa Diaz.
Present.
David Giordano.
Present.
John Green.
Here.
Annie Hansen. Christina Johnson. Excuse. Sage Mason. Jennifer Meyer. Jennifer Meyer. Asher Rodriguez. Excuse. Isaac Scott.
Yeah.
Russell Schuler.
Present.
Gift control.
Thank you, please. The agenda for tonight's meeting was distributed ahead of time by the board's office and posted online. If there are no objections, we will adopt the agenda as stated. Committee members, if you object to adopting the agenda, you may raise your hand as recognized and be recognized. Seeing that no hands, no objections, so moved. The agenda is adopted. The minutes from our last meeting was distributed to committee members ahead of time by the board office. If there is no objection, we will adopt the minutes from that meeting. Committee members, if you object to adopting the minutes, you may raise your hand and wait to be recognized. Seeing no objection, the minutes from the last meeting are adopted. The minutes of tonight's meeting are being taken by, and that will be me tonight, as Asher is not here. Asher is the vice chair, for those that don't know. Unfortunately couldn't make it tonight. Tonight we want to just start with some brief announcements. I have 2 very brief announcements. One, I don't know if everybody's noticed, but I also work for the Children's Aid Society and operate the East Harlem Center. We are currently operating out of Lexington Academy as the site closed down in 2018. We have torn down the building and are in the process of, with the developer, rebuilding a new building that will be approximately 10 to 12 stories high. We will have 3 stories that we will bought back in ownership. Yolanda McBride, Director of Policy, will be coming before the board and making a formal presentation. We hope the new building will be ready in about 4 years. That's the projected date, but it's been moving along really nice. And we have some exciting news and changes that were upgrades to the site for Children's Aid being there. So I look forward to presenting that new site when we open it as well. The second announcement is I just want to acknowledge, as I did at the Open Space and Parks, that I really want to give a big shout out to Sport Time USA through a special grant that we got through Diana Yeller's office this summer. And they waived their fee and provided free tennis lessons. So I want to thank Ben Chelensky and also Daniel White for making those connections. I'm going to further explore. They provided to 120 kids from both Children's Aid and SCAN this summer on the Summer Rising program. We are going to look to continue the tennis for kids at the East Harlem Center at Lexington Academy. So those are my 2 announcements for tonight. Any other announcements from members? I need an announcement so I can drink some more water. Seeing that there are no more, we will move to the informational updates. We begin with Dr. Bella Cruz. Dr. Christie, welcome. It's been a great summer, Summer Rising summer. thank you for coming out to our site and seeing the wonderful work we did. We did celebrate 50 years of hip hop at the Lexington Academy and really did a wonderful job in our presentation of learning where it began, where it's going to, and just wonderful presentations by the youth. Dr. Christie, welcome. You want me?
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. I just wanted to say happy Tuesday. It's such an honor and a privilege to serve the East Harlem community. And so thank you, David, for inviting me. So proud of our partnerships, all of our partnerships. And our schools would not be able to operate without Community Board 11, our parents, community, and all of us working together. I will have a more robust update tomorrow at our CEC meeting. So we have a Community Education Council meeting at 6 p.m. tomorrow night. So I will have a PowerPoint and all the details. We had a great first day of school opening. I know it was hot, but working together, we were able, we only have one building that has some fuse issues, but we were able to make sure that everyone was in air-conditioned buildings. And yeah, so a lot of great things are going on, and looking forward to, like I said, really sharing some more of the great things tomorrow night and just updates about just attendance for the first day of school and all the great things. For this summer, for those of you who didn't know, we had our first ever Summer Rising STEAM Expo. It was wonderful. We had a guest speaker from, oh my gosh, Pepsi, a scientist speak with the children. And that was through a grant that we had. We also visited all of our Summer Rising sites, and we're able to have different community members join us to check out our schools. Another great thing that's happening is our pool inside of the 45 building is actually being repaired as we speak. And we also got additional funding for the air conditioning of the public spaces at the Tito Puente campus. And then another thing that we have, I'm trying to think of another great thing. River East Elementary received about, I think, $900,000 from Congressman Espaillat for a new playground. So that's another just great things happening. So I just really want to invite everyone to come to the CEC meeting. I will have a more detailed update, but really proud. Right now, we're really focusing on our early childhood, 3K and pre-K, and visiting all of our 3K and pre-K classrooms. And by the CEC meeting tomorrow night, I will have visited all of the 3K and pre-K classrooms in the district. We have 19 sites. So thank you. And I will put my email and my phone number. Please continue to reach out with any questions or concerns. As I always say, the only way we can do better is if we work together and address problems together. So again, thank you. Thank you, Community Board 11. Thank you for all of your support. I also want to say that the repairs for the doors are in process at the Lexington Academy. And so I just really want to thank you all for lifting our concerns. And I know Lexington presented here, but I feel so honored to work in our CEC, in the East Harlem community. I know we're hearing a lot of things in the media too about our newest New Yorkers. We're continuing to welcome students where we have seats available. We have systems and structures in place. And I'm really, really proud of our school leaders, our community boutique, and how we try our best. I know it's not perfect, but the way we work together in East Harlem is really special. And I just want to say thanks again to everyone. So thank you.
Also, I want to add on September 30th, we have our Welcome Back Festival, right? Dr.
Yes.
Christie?
Oh my gosh, how could I forget? Nancy's going to kill me. How could I forget that? Yes and
Thank
yes.
you, David. I was going to ask that for
Yes, so we will have a table, Community Board 11 out there. It's a really festive day, a lot of giveaways, a lot of great things for kids. And just come out and meet all the wonderful schools and partnerships we have that work together in this community on behalf of the youth. Yes, we don't want to forget that event. So next we'll move, yes, John.
Same place, right? 120.
120th, yes, start at 10 o'clock, and I think goes to what, 3 o'clock, 2 o'clock? We have wonderful activities, food, and all kinds of giveaways, wonderful giveaways. So please come out, bring children, come meet the schools. Next, up we have, Rosa from CEC4, who's our CEC4 president. Rosa Diaz.
Yes, thank you. I'm here in person. Yay. Tomorrow we have our meeting in Tito Puente at 6 p.m. It's in person, and we're also going to have a Zoom option for whoever wants to join us. You know, if you can't make it in person, then you're able to join us remotely. We're also going to have Mr. Robert Williams, who is from the Field Language Access Coordinator, providing language access to our families who are in person, and we will send information to everyone that it's remote. Yeah, so join us tomorrow. Just another announcement, Manhattan High School President's Council will have their meeting September 19th. It's remote. The information was already sent out, and I also brought flyers for whoever would like to join. I think that's my update. Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to highlight something between the CEC and the district and the superintendent. We've really worked hard, and as she mentioned, Lexington Academy is getting doors. And for those of you that don't know, Lexington Academy is going to be 100 years old, and the doors that were in the building were 100 years old. So they didn't have any of the safety measures. Often they would close and fall off hinges, and kids would get hurt. So part of the advocacy and part of putting things on our district needs and part of working with the CEC and the School Construction Authority as one of the authorities in DOE, we've been able to highlight certain projects and help support them. And again, when they start seeing in Office of Budget Management that these things are coming up in several different areas, it helps makes a stronger case when we're advocating for certain things to be done in the community. We do need to add conditions. We know those schools that Lexington does not have it in the auditorium or in the cafeteria. It's murder. And we're hoping that eventually that will be additional funding that can go to not only Lexington Academy, but all the schools in the community. So just on a sidebar. Do we have anybody from CEC 5? Thank you, Rosa.
Of course.
Ms. Williams? We got to remind everybody we back live, so we got to get on that kind of bit. Do we have anybody representing the DA's office? I'm sorry, it's just hard to see here from the screen so far.
There's someone that's from community education. I don't know if that's 5.
It's fine.
Would you like to give your report?
Yes.
Hello, if you don't mind, please introduce yourself. You can have something to say or hold it to next month. So you didn't know that we would put you on the spot, but we do that, so.
Might be happening, if I can see
Are
it.
they still muted? They are.
They're mute.
They may be speaking and don't know that they're still muted.
No, they're not.
I can't see anything from here. We're over without the
They're
glass.
not speaking.
It's all at the top. Oh, okay.
We gotta get that other big screen. So for many members who may not know, part of CB11, there's a little carve out part in the northern part that represents CEC 5. And that's Community Education Council, District 5 and DOE District 5. They're in part of our community in CB11. All the communities, if you don't know, are overlap between, like this is District 8 Council District for the council one, but we're Community Board 11. And with CEC 4, District 4, DOE 4. But all these districts kind of overlap a little here and there, like part of District 8 is in the Bronx. So I don't know if people know that as well. So we, our community spread very far. And sometimes we're not as close as we think, but we really are. So this is highlighting a little bit of information. Without knowing if anybody else is here to get committee reports, we can proceed. Dr. LaCrae has asked to present next month, so they'll be here next month on the intergenerational work that they've done in the community. I did some really good work around youth rights, and we were looking forward to them presenting, but they will be here next month. So without further ado, we do have East Harlem tutorial program. We're going to have some updates by Raul. And Raul, good to have you in space. And Welcome.
Hello, everyone.
You got a
I
presentation,
shared
right?
with you, and then my, so we have two people on Zoom. But my intro, so I'm the Director of Public Engagement over East Harlem Shore Program and East Harlem Scholars Academy.
Could you do the presentation up there?
Yeah.
I'm trying to do it right now.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, while that's getting pulled up, I don't know if you can see Ingrid and.
Ingrid spent many hours in this office.
I'm sure. Of course, she doesn't feel well today, so
Is my thing heading away?
No, you're good, you're good.
I shared it, yeah, right there.
Buddy.
But yeah, well, that's getting pulled up, Jeff.
What the heck?
Our big presentation today is about a couple transitions that are happening in EHCP. One of the more impactful ones is our CEO of many years, over 15 years, Jeff Ginsburg, who was a large part of kind of growing the organization from a largely volunteer-run organization to the over 300 staff members and over 1,700 students that we serve today. Is departing. Thank you so much.
I wanted to be, I really learned something today.
And then just see if Eliana. And Ingrid.
Okay, let's see. Ingrid is here. Ingrid, you can unmute yourself if you'd like.
Hi, good afternoon all. Thanks for having us. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Eliana, or I should say Alma.
They're not here.
All right, hopefully they will join soon. I consider. All right, yes, but our CEO search. You can go to the next slide really quickly. So our main objective is to inform about the updates. Yeah, about the current updates going on at the organization, including Jeff's departure. We'll describe a little bit about how EHTP and Scholars Academies is approaching the search, and making sure that we're doing this in a community involved way with all of our stakeholders. And then the last part of it is to talk a little bit about what that process looks like for our families and what kind of feedback we've been given so far, where we are in the process, and that will be mostly from the executive search firm called Alma that will, Eliana, when she gets here, will give you a little bit of that, and then do a quick round robin of as to what members of the board are thinking of should be important for the next education leader in East Harlem to know and have as a skill. So we go to the next one really quickly. So that's a little bit about our team. Reason I want Ingrid to be here virtually was because with Jeff's departure, we really don't anticipate having a new CEO until possibly the next calendar year. And Ingrid, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but in the interim, our board has appointed Ingrid Sotelo as our interim chief executive officer, which is very exciting for everyone in East Harlem. that knows Ingrid and loves Ingrid, we do as well. But she is in charge at the moment, and you can imagine that makes her a very busy person. But there's also myself as the director of public engagement, and Maya here to kind of support all of our community outreaches we've been doing for a number of years. I am on my way out of EHCP at the end of October, so Maya will kind of be the face you see most of the time, and we have that role open too as a search. So if you know anybody that's interested in getting involved with education in East Harlem in this way, feel free to send them our way. And then just inviting you to kind of take a look at our website and see all the other great, amazing leaders that work at EHTP. You go to the next slide. So that's Jeff. Jeff, this is kind of the big announcement we made in the spring, just so that you see his face. I know he's kind of been around, especially when it came to the opening of Scholars Academy, as you may have remembered from when we were engaging the community in that way too. So we can go to the next slide. Just a quick reminder of all the programs and schools that we operate. EHCP for many we just celebrated our 65th anniversary year, so it's very exciting. But in that amount of time, operating K through 12 after school and summer programs for free for any student in East Harlem has been the hallmark of what we've been doing. And in 2011, we kind of ratcheted that up to the next level by operating a number of public charter schools, East Harlem Scholars Academies, of which we have 5 at the moment. The new for everybody, you'll get the invite from Maya sometime in the later winter. But our new building, our new high school campus, because we've been bouncing around East Harlem for quite some years, is going to be completed in spring of 2024. We're doing a soft open, right, Ingrid? Sometime in January, people can start coming to see.
Yes,
what it
yes,
looks
we'll have
like.
a soft opening in January. That's correct.
With a grand opening for the next school year, sometime between May and August, with kids in building, in seats, in. Our school year starts, in the middle of August, so that's gonna be nice. So that's right there. So I'll go, yes,
With the new high school campus, are you moving or is it a completely like new, you're bringing in a whole class of new?
great question. Yeah, so we are moving our current high school. So they were, when we opened the high school, it just happened to coincide with the pandemic. And they were at 96th Street temporarily between First and Second. That was always our intention, was to be there temporarily. But with the pandemic and with the distance, like having the distance in the classrooms, we had another temporary site, which was our old central office, and then they moved to the extra building, which we're very, very grateful to Museo, to kind of allow us to be in that space with them. But we're going to outgrow that space eventually, and so it's always been an imperative for us to have the new building, and thankfully, Ingrid, well, the campaign was $30 million.
Yes,
Yeah, so about $30 million from our private donors to help create this new educational facility. We've said that it's one of the first, or in a very long time, purpose-built high school brand new space in East Harlem. And so if you've been to our facility at 2050, you'll know that we open it up to the community all the time. It's a space that we truly believe belongs to East Harlem, not just the schools. So we run our after school programming from there. We have a robotics lab, but we also have community festivals going on through there. We allow other organizations to use it for different events. And so we have every intention to use the high school campus, which will have a full basketball court, we only have a half basketball court at 2050. But this is very exciting for us indeed. Yes.
I just want to say, I only just connected the dots, but I drove past that campus like a couple months ago.
Yeah, it's that big construction. We just got the blue parts of our facade up. So
The blue.
yeah, so that's when you'll know we're the blue buildings all throughout East Harlem. There's two, but we're also at Patrick Henry, which is where our middle school after school program is housed, and our other programming, our other community programming continues to kind of, we're thinking about what ways can we continue to partner with district schools. That's always been at the heart of our organization, is make sure that yes, we have our schools, we're also want to be a resource for anybody, any student in the community. I'm going to check one more time to see Ileana, because the next slide is there.
It's there.
Okay, so Ileana, we're going to talk about Alma, so I'll pass it on to you.
Awesome. Can you all hear me okay?
Yes.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for creating some space for us to join you this evening. Lots of exciting updates. So glad I caught a little bit about that piece. My name is Eliana Pereira. I'm one of the members of the Alma Advisory Group. And I am very excited to be supporting the search. I'm no longer living in New York as of 4 years ago, but I'm a native New Yorker, and I spent a great part of my career with the New York City Department of Education in the East Harlem community, as well as in the South Bronx, which is where I'm originally from. So this is very near and dear to my heart. I'm really excited to have this opportunity to connect with you all this evening to share a little bit about the CEO search process and our support in that. We are very grateful for the support of the team at EHTP and all of the different opportunities that they've created for us to connect with families, with staff, and with members of the community in East Harlem to better understand what your needs are, your perspectives, and use that to help inform the process through which we select the new CEO. So with that, I'd love to share a little bit about what we've done to date And I'd love to share another opportunity through which you all could also help inform this process by sharing your perspectives. And I'll walk you through that in just a sec. So if we could just move on to the next slide. I want to start by grounding us in our shared purpose. ALMA is a mission-driven organization. It's something that's really important to us. And so we start every search by first understanding what's most important for us to get right through this process. As we started this engagement in June of this year, which feels a long time ago, but in June, we had an opportunity to be on site with families and staff members and had an opportunity to ask them, what's most important for you? What do you think the incoming CEO needs to demonstrate, be able to show, be able to know and do in order to fully support this community? And this is what came from those initial conversations. So through this process, our shared purpose, and this is the purpose of the board in going through this process, but also what drives our work as well as a firm, is to recruit, to screen, and to select an exceptional CEO who understands a diverse community and can lead and drive excellent outcomes for the scholars of East Harlem. And so our process is really designed to establish a transparent and accessible process. And that's something that has been central to our work, which is why we're coming to you this evening as well, because we want to ensure that we capture as many voices and perspectives as possible. I'll pause there, and for my EHTP colleagues, if there are any questions, I'm happy to take those at any point in time, but also just happy to keep moving as I know you all have a packed agenda this evening.
Sage Mason has a question.
Thank you. I appreciate being there today. I'm wondering why Jeff is leaving at like this seemingly consequential time. They're about to open up like a $30 million school that he put a lot of years into fundraising for.
Yeah.
Why now?
And I'll allow Ingrid to interject at any point, but I mean, when Jeff shared the news with all the staff, he shared that it felt like a pivotal moment. So we had just graduated our first graduating high school class. And so the students who started with us all the way back in 2011 just graduated this past May and felt like an important pivot moment for him. It was one that the board wrestled with for quite some time to feel like, oh my God, how are we going to lose such a leader at the organization? But it's one that I think he's expressed multiple times that we have the senior staff in place in order to make sure that nothing goes astray, right? We are going into the next phase of the organization's lifetime. And then Ingrid, anything else you'd like to add there?
No, I mean, I think, Raul, you summed it up pretty well. Jeff has been with us a little over 15 years, and he's definitely done a lot of work, and I think he feels really comfortable that it's time for a new chapter at EHTP. We have the next, amazing executive leaders. This is the first time that we have a women executive leadership team. And so, he graduated, our senior class has graduated. He feels like this is a good time for him to transition out. He's not fully transitioning out. He's also still going to be a part of, supporting us from like an advisory perspective, and also later on from the board. And so he's still very committed to EHTP, the community, very dear to his heart. And so that's pretty much the reason. There's no really other reason of him transitioning out. I hope that sheds some light to the question.
Yeah, do we know what he's doing next? Or does he know?
Sure, he's
wrapping up his PhD program now, or still in it?
Yes, I was just gonna say he's wrapping up his PhD program. He certainly doesn't have anything lined up as of yet, or at least that he has shared with us. But he is, he's kind of sort of getting the feelers, taking a break as well. He's been with us for a really long time and just wants to be present as well with his family during this time.
Thank you.
I would just add, Jeff has sat on this table many times. We've given him hell at times to get numbers up in East Harlem, serving East Harlem kids in the schools that have opened. And he's responded, so, you know, we will miss him. And again, diversity is always good, and, you know, when things don't always come so easy, we work harder to make them last, so I think it's evident as the agency has grown under his leadership. I remember when they built that first building, I'm still waiting on mine up the hill, you know, it's like, I want that, but, you know, again, the perseverance and sticking with things and having a tough skin. I think somebody coming into this community has to be prepared.
Yeah.
That, you know, if you don't come right, we will step to you.
Absolutely.
Anything else, Dave? I'm sorry.
So we can keep going, Ileana.
That sounds great. And thank you for that question. I mean, you know, definitely that's quite the legacy to leave behind. And that type of tenure is also just really quite impressive and just indicative of his connection and commitment to the community. It's always tough, right? When you have a leader that has been able to do so much, and certainly it will be, you know, difficult shoes to fill. But also, you know, really excited to build on the legacy that he leaves behind. And so that's our hope through this process, that we can continue, as Ingrid said, to really usher in this next chapter of EHTP in service to the community. Great. Thank you for that. And if that works for you all, I'm okay to, you know, stop at any point and have you all ask any questions that would be helpful. And I apologize, I've been fighting a cold. And so if it kicks in, I'll mute myself briefly. Awesome. If we could move to the next slide, please. I'll go through these next two rather quickly. And I know there are a lot of words here. All of our searches are essentially roughly estimated to last between 4 or 5 months. We've had a little bit of a longer window of time with this search because we got to take advantage of an engagement period early on, immediately after we confirmed that we would be supporting this. And so we had a chance to be on site in New York in June. That's at the point at which we had the chance to meet with families and staff members in person. Over the course of the last, well, now August, month and a half or so, we've been amplifying our efforts to hear more perspectives, not just to help inform the job description for the role, but also to inform the screening process. And that's something, again, that we wanted to anchor in those values and in the input that we've collected from the community. So at this point in time, we are actually designing the process, which is why connecting with you all today is so important. We're also meeting with candidates who are interested in the position, and there's been a lot of interest in the role, in the incredible work and legacy that East Harlem has in the area. So we're really excited about the profile of the leaders that are interested in the position. And so between now and probably the end of the month, early October, we'll still be interviewing candidates. And our hope is that by end of October-ish or so, we'll be at the point where the board will be meeting with finalists and vetting those finalists for the role. So I know it feels like it visually looks like we're towards the tail end of the process, but there's still a ways to go. And there's a lot of time and effort that we'll have to spend over the course of the next 2 months to ensure that we're properly vetting and that we're screening candidates so that you all have the absolute best leader, a leader who reflects your values and your needs as a community once we are through this process. I'll pause here for a moment again and see any questions on this piece before I move forward.
Question?
I think I'll just add one quick thing about this slide that's not seen. So I know I was mentioning a couple of stakeholder sessions that we've done with families. We just wrapped up some other stakeholder sessions for partners that we've worked with closely over the past couple of years. So we're really trying to make sure that we're just getting as much feedback as possible about who this person, what this person should do.
Yes, I'm curious about the anti-bias training and how that is conducted and how that like gauged in the candidate.
Yeah, I mean, I'll let Juliana, Ingrid, kind
Yeah.
of reference how it is happening and from the perspective of the process.
Yeah, this is something that's really central to our process. I will share that, and you'll hear Alma in particular talk a lot about competencies. And that's something that has been really at the core of how we conduct searches. It serves as our anchor. It serves as our guide as we're having conversations about candidates. We all have biases, and that's our stance, like that. We just have to acknowledge that. And so what we do through our process is ensure that anyone that is reviewing resumes, anyone that is interviewing candidates is going through our training. And we've developed a training over the years that really allows us to focus in on those competencies, as I said, as a way to essentially even the playing field as we're looking at candidates. Once we identify who will be part of the panel, the interview panel, if we will, we go through that process together so that we can identify for each other where are places where we can support one another, where are the places where, again, we want to be anchored by what we said was most important for this role. And through this process, what we've seen over the years is that it really has allowed for women to surface through our process at higher percentages than I think typical searches. People of color also tend to rise to the top much more frequently than through processes that are not anchored in these competencies. And those competencies are created in conversation like this one today, where we get to hear the perspectives, we get to hear what's most important for a leader who's interested in this position. And so that's something we're really committed to. And like I said, we've had really great results over the years. And so it would be something that we put members of the board through, because they'll be participating in the interview process, as well as any other. Some organizations like to bring in community members or families to serve on panels for interviews. And so that would be something that would be required for those participants as well.
Any questions?
Did I answer?
Yes, thank you.
Appreciate that. Thank you for that question. Great. So I'll move us on to the next slide. We've kind of talked through this one a little bit already, but wanted to just highlight the different types of engagements we've hosted over the course of the last few months. It's been great to meet and to connect with members of the community, both virtually and in person. This last round of engagement has also included the launch of our community survey, which is housed in the website on EHTP's main site. We've also been promoting it through our media channels and welcome you all through your own networks as well. And I'll share the link to that in just a second. But this is another way that we've been able to cast a wider net. We've been pushing this out to staff members as well to elevate their voices in this process, and would also love your perspectives and your input. A lot of the questions in the survey are very similar to some of the questions we've asked in person. And again, it just allows us to cast a much wider net as we move through. The survey is available on the site in English and in Spanish. And again, we welcome all of those, any of these channels, right, through which to contribute and share your perspectives. And that will be open through the 22nd of September. And then if we can go to I think it's the last. Awesome. So like I just said, we've had a chance to connect with, and I have to run the numbers because we had the last round of engagement was up until last week, and then certainly meeting with you all but we've been able to collect between the survey and then the in-person engagements. I think we're pushing somewhere upwards of 400 plus members of the community that we've been able to hear from. And it's been wonderful to hear that input and those perspectives. I welcome you all now. If you have your phones, if you've got a device now and you'd like to just take a few minutes, the survey is very quick. It's very brief and probably takes about 5 minutes or so to complete, but it allows us to capture your perspectives about what you think is most important for someone interested in this role to know, some of the skills that are most important for them to demonstrate, the experiences that they need to bring to the table, and even things like what you need them to know about the East Harlem community. As they consider this opportunity in this next phase of their career and in the next phase or next chapter of EHTP's legacy in the community. So with that, I'd love to, and I'll take your cues. If I could ask a couple of questions and just have you all share out, I'm happy to capture those. If you'd prefer to just take the survey now, also happy to do that as well.
I would say we would do the survey afterwards, so we do have a meeting and agenda. Generally, we don't give much more time, but this is very important as a cornerstone in our community. And we want to make sure that the next CEO serves 1/4 of the time as Jeff did as the agency's time, right? So that is a long time when you talk about an agency for 65 years. So.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
and I'll just let Ingrid share a last thought and then we'll wrap up. Ingrid?
Ingrid, can you hear us? You're still with us?
So, I mean, I'm sure Ingrid just wanted to share essentially, how grateful she is for
Can you hear me?
Oh, there we go.
What are we gonna do without you? Right?
Go ahead, Ingrid, I can hear you. Or not, but yes, so how grateful we are to the board for the input and, this is obviously also an exciting period of time for EHTP to have Ingrid as its interim leader, so we just will continue to kind of rely on community support to do what we do, and always hear if there's any ever questions or feedback in the future. So, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Leanna. Ingrid.
Thank you. You know, this is really,
Hi.
thank you for sharing. Oh,
Can you hear?
Ingrid,
I'm
yeah.
sorry. Can you hear me? Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
Ingrid.
sorry. I could hear you, but I feel, yeah, I feel like you couldn't hear me. I just wanted to say thank you for allowing us to have a couple of minutes here to present. And I want to thank Raul and Maya for being there. I just hope that you all know how committed we are to really hearing from the community for this next CEO, and hope that you can take a couple of minutes, if it's not tonight, tomorrow, to complete the survey. And we'll also be working with Alma to continue to find other ways that we can engage community stakeholders. It's very important that the next CEO understands our community and is embedded in our community and the work that we're doing. And so thank you again for allowing us to be in this space. We look forward to sharing more updates, you know, next couple of weeks and within the next couple of months. Where questions that you all.
Thank you, Ingrid. Thank you, Raul. And Maya, congratulations too on your new position.
Oh, well, I don't have a new position, but you will be seeing me around, so it's great to see you all in person.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So as we continue on, do we have, or are we gonna do our budget needs and then move to, Urban Dove? Is Urban Dove?
I don't think Urban Dove is.
Maybe it's gonna come next month?
Next month, right.
Okay, good. So, Urban Dove will be here to present on 2 new charter schools that they are taking over. And one of them will be coming to East Harlem. I kind of have some background information on my own, but we'll wait to their presentation and see them next month. And look forward to that presentation. What I wanted to do, as we go forward, are 2 things. We have to work on the budget, budget priorities and district needs, which is for new members, a process that we go through in each meeting, continuously, ongoingly, And this helps guide, as I mentioned earlier, some of the projects that we will support as a community that will present as needing funding or additional funding. Not everything gets funded. It's usually through great advocacy and efforts and continued advocacy and efforts that things come through. And sometimes we keep things that have been around forever and think there's no movement. And sometimes there is. And I'll just use one example. When I was the chair of Health and Human Services, I always wondered why we kept rats and nobody did anything about the rat. And last year, the mayor did made a whole program around attacking the rats in the city. So sometimes if we take it off, it may never come alive, but sometimes we got to keep it alive when nothing is done to someday, one day be done. So I say that because I think it's very important as we move forward in this process that we can identify a lot of needs, we can say they're a priority, but how do we represent that in the community? Where do we go and advocate? How do we touch others to get on back with us to make this a global issue in the community that really results in being addressed? And again, I've, in my own last 2 to 3 years, I've probably focused more on the DOE inequities in buildings and facilities and really targeted that. But I say this as we go forward with a new group, a new committee, new members, we will look at what our mission is. Is the mission where we want to go as a new group? So as we look at these things that we highlight as needs, are these things that we also want to take to the next level and advocate to make sure it gets done? And some of those projects have really, I think, been fostered through community efforts, both in the parks and us, where we overlap in a lot of projects around youth, that the advocacy has been strong and has had good results. So I look forward to that. But I'm going to turn it over to Khalid right now for a little while with the public input. I hope everybody's had a chance to see it.
So we'll just go over this really quick, members. We got maybe up to 180 or so responses throughout the district, virtual and like face-to-face in-person surveying the constituents of this district. What are the most pressing needs over a couple of sectors. So I'm just gonna go over that. Well, this specific presentation is for the district budget and needs committee, which is gonna be occurring next week. So feel free to attend that and go over these specifically, but I just only want to stop over the issues pertinent for this committee specifically. Youth and education, child welfare. So we had 19.8% of total responses, 33 votes that felt after school programs were of the most important of 5 issues, so 5 top issues. Adolescent substance abuse came second, 26 votes, 15.6%. Youth workforce development and summer youth employment, 21 votes, 12.6%. Educational attainment, 17 votes, 10.2%. Community and our home-based support services for families, juvenile justice, 11 votes each, 6.6% each.
Are these like absolute as in like this is what I filled this survey out a long time ago. Was this just like the youth and education categories, or was this everybody across the board? And if so, can I see these compared to like?
Sure, of course. Yeah, the raw data we have, and I'd be happy to share that with you. But this is specifically for youth education and child welfare specific categories. So we just took the amount under that sector and then just tallied up the votes for it. But these are just of the top 5 most important issues. So for the next slide, you'll see that there was a lot more. Sorry guys, there's a lot more, and we of course just drew from the top 5 for space reasons, but of course you can look at everything else: remote learning and technology, juvenile justice services at risk youth, school diversity, early childhood education. So I'll make sure that this is available for you guys, and you can take a look at it, try to get you the raw data if you want that as well, and consider these concerns over the term for this year and how you'd like to target everything else. Let me see to make sure that this isn't the only youth and education related one.
It's interesting too, because I think sometimes we're not always defining what people's responses are on those things, right? So like everybody says after school, there are enough after school programs that serve kids in this community. Sometimes they're underserved, right? And each of those programs allow you to go 20% over, which our contract numbers are as well. But more focus, I look at where's more after school funding for adolescents during that time for programming, not just work readiness and work development kind of programming. And so I think this is where it becomes, how do we define those things that people capture? Because often you know, they think it is a lack of, right? So 3K and pre-K, they are underserved in this community, and that's what Dr. Dela Cruz will mention tomorrow. They have a lot of slots. So what are we talking about when we identify these areas? And I think that's what we come, yes, Sage.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I think probably most of the people filling out this survey are not like kids in school. And so I think a lot of older people are just like, I see kids in the street after school. Why aren't they in an after school program? And then they rank that the highest when,
Yeah.
you know, after school programs exist. It's like, how do you get the kids to those?
And now the kids may give you more response of the quality of one, or whether they like it, or whether it's boring. They'll talk about the food, you know, the food in programs or in schools, right? But that's a big, and I think that's how, you know, this committee's always looked to foster bringing on youth or younger people on the board so that we have that voice and representation. Oh, we're gonna capture him as well, that's okay. It's gotta start somewhere, so. And again, that's when Ash started. I had Ash attending meetings with me at, you know, 14 years old, and then evolved and became a member on the committee, and brings that youth where sometimes they're in touch with those things. So I think that's part of our role, is how then we take what these things are and then define them for what are we really looking for. Like SYP is great for summer. The workforce development needs to be greater in the winter for kids. It's such a small percentage of kids that benefit from it, where we may have 70,000 in the city in the summer, but maybe have 3,000 in the work run and grow programs throughout the program. So that's where we advocate for more of those slots, you know, and those things. I'm sorry, please. Also,
no, this is very.
Huh?
Go on, please.
Yeah, no, I also felt like when I looked at this, that we really limit this and needed to add additional functions. We needed to add OCFS, which is the Office of Children and Family Services, and that's state. You know, DOH, Department of Health and Human Hygiene, as we overlap, and then also the juvenile justice system, which affects our youth in the community as well, and has a big impact on services, either pro and con. So, you know, again, those are, as we've addressed so much youth violence in this community, right? That should be part of that as well, and globally. And with this, and as Khalid, you know, is really good, because he overlaps this in so many committees, so he has to be aware of all these kind of different facets. Is, you know, as we get into the year, we really start honing in, what are these needs in the community, and which ones do we say we're gonna take to the next level and add advocacy to? Because it's that next level that gets done.
And Sage as well, just want to let you know that majority of the survey is actually compiled from DCP, city planning. So the questions that are put out there, these people would select, you know, based off of their preference. But with the digital survey, there are also, you know, select other, and then you fill in your own comments. So you can look and you see like, there's like one sliver that says no comment. But then you can find, but then you can, there are others who would say something like completely radical, runaway and homeless youth. That's not part of the original survey. So then you could say, okay, well, what is it, like, you know, look at this specific response and see if somebody put in, you know, anything extra regarding what they're aware of, what they've seen. Additionally, we, you know, it's just, and this is not an excuse, but it really is just us staff, and then maybe some volunteers when we go to like a family day or something like an event to get these surveys. And a lot of the people in the district, they don't speak English, and we are, like most of us, 2 out of 3 of us only speak English. So, you know, we're missing out a lot of data, pertinent data. So that's, you know, this is also like a cry for help, you know, members next year, if you guys have free time and you're bilingual, trilingual, could really help us out with like expanding this data, because I know previously you guys have had like 200, 250 responses, but since I've come here, it's been less than 200. So, you know, definitely need the help on that.
So, could we like do events in the community? Like when we're doing events to the community in the summer, we could have like a station where people could just come and fill out the form.
Yes,
right?
yes.
Yeah.
I think since we're tabling September 30th, we can also
The survey,
obtain.
the survey closes.
Yeah.
August
No,
27th.
no, but I'm saying like what I was about to say.
Oh, sorry.
Like we can have some type of attendance sheet, full name, maybe like what district you're from, an email address, that maybe we can send people surveys so we can obtain more results, you know what I mean?
Yes, but we also have a newsletter, and that was at the top of our newsletter for over a month.
Believe
And,
me,
you
I
know,
also posted it, but you know,
Yeah.
unless Unless you tell a parent, hey, can you sign this? You know,
Right.
hey, you know.
Right, exactly.
Or even guide them to, can I help you sign this? You know what I
Right,
mean?
right.
Sometimes they need a little push.
I think also that this folks in the community, like, that's just like living everyday life, don't really see how this survey is going to change something in their area.
Yeah.
And I think we could do a better job at, just translating what, how impactful it is that we get their input. I think that's what it is.
Yeah.
I think it's just a matter of like a disconnect between like the work we do and what happens in the community, because folks are not like,
Right, there's a lot of skepticism.
Yeah,
And, and it takes a lot to turn that around.
yeah.
Well,
Sorry,
yeah,
it's
fair enough.
if I remember correctly, it's like a pretty long survey because they ask about each area.
Mm.
So I wonder if like throughout the year, we just ask people like a very short survey of like, what are your top 3 concerns in general? And like, obviously that's not it's not getting the same amount of data, but it's getting some data besides in the window when the survey's open.
We can do that for September 30th.
Question, are we limited to this survey for our statement of district needs and the district needs?
I mean, we pull from, well, it's not only this survey, we pull our information from the census, we pull it from other reputable organizations, but in the actual statement itself, I might refer and say, well, in the 2025 fiscal year 2025 survey that we put out, we receive 33 votes or 19.8% individuals that believe after school programs were. So, I would cite that, but this is not the only source. You have like 2 hands raised, by the way, just want you know.
What?
2 hands raised, you have Xavier.
See that.
So-
I'm close up, I can see it.
We have an
You
Andrew.
gotta tell Angel to put up that other big screen.
Yeah,
so we
one,
can
two,
choose.
trying to get it.
Because my
Yeah.
neck is already very
Hey,
late.
we'll work on it. We have an attendee, Andrew Rubinson, who had his hand up for a while, and then Xavier had it.
Well, we'll go to our chair first, and then we'll go to the public.
Okay, Xavier, if you could. Go ahead.
Hey, everyone, and welcome back. Welcome back. I just wanted to say thank you for everyone and their participation with this survey. I do want to notate what Khalid said is it's really about the personal touch and outreach. At the 101st and 100th Street Open Street, there were surveys that were filled out through the QR code there, and sometimes it just requires a little bit of hand-holding and explaining the real-world impact and how that actually plays a part and in translating that to how the budgetary process, because it is very, very droll and dry. So I think showing them how, a year or 2 later, these things can get funded through our municipal process. But I want to say, everyone, now that we're back in person, we're live, this is something we can improve going forward and out at various events. There were 3 going on tonight alone, in addition to this committee meeting. So I just want to say thank you, everyone, and welcome back. And all of this should be, feel free to send recommendations to the District Needs and Budget Committee, because this will be helpful for their meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Xavier. We have somebody from the public?
Andrew, you can speak. Go ahead. Unmute yourself first, please.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Andrew Rubinson from a youth organization called Urban Dove. Urban Dove has been around serving New York City youth since 1998 and actually does have a long history of serving youth in East Harlem. The reason that I'm here is to briefly let you know that Urban Dove has the opportunity to open 2 new transfer schools. We currently have 2 transfer schools, one in the Bronx and one in Brooklyn. And of the 2 new transfer schools that we have the opportunity to open, it looks like one of them is going to be coming to East Harlem. So I just wanted to kind of just reintroduce the name of our organization, Urban Dove, and I'd like to come and attend this meeting next month in person to give you a little bit more fuller presentation about Urban Dove and about the kind of charter transfer school that we operate, and we're very excited about the possibility to again engage young people in East Harlem in this new manner. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. Much appreciated. And we'll follow up so that he can get you set up to visit us next month.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew, and welcome to the community.
Yes, sir.
We also have a Ryan Prieto who's has a
So-
race.
What we want to do is keep the discussion to the agenda item. We did plan on having Urban Dove make that announcement, but we would have delayed that or put it at the beginning. So that we can finish our agenda items before going on to the next business. So forgive us, Andrew. Next time, we do look forward to you presenting and giving us a full detail of the schools and moving to East Harlem.
We'll see you next month. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. So Ryan, does your question pertain to the topic of the budget priorities and district needs? We just want to stay on focus.
No, it doesn't. Stay on focus and I can go ahead and introduce myself at the end of the meeting.
Thank you, Ryan. Thank you. And for all members, we do make announcements and all public, we do make announcements at the beginning of the meeting. If you miss the beginning, we can circle back and have announcements that you missed at the end of the meeting, but we do want to stay on topic and stick to the agenda. I have the tendency to go off on tangents, so we definitely need to help stay focused in the meeting. Again, as this relates to the budget priorities, as we mentioned earlier, we will continue to work on this going forward. Please, everybody, review this, and not just for the youth and education, review it really for the entire board, because we do make decisions, and as a board, we vote on the priorities. Just because we think something's a priority in this committee, doesn't mean it's gonna be the #1 priority on the board and may fall further down the list. So, again, advocacy is important. When we do presentations on these items, we should always try to tie it into budget needs and district, statement about district needs and how we're moving forward. Again, I'm really focused and going forward on the process of looking at our schools and making sure that all youth have that fair and opportunity education as other schools in our community may have, particularly charters that come in. So if there's any other questions, Khalid, anything else you need to add for us?
Yes,
Keep it
so
focused?
yes, I just want to make sure that we have nothing else here related to this committee. I think that those are really it. Public safety.
And a lot of things in parts kind of overlap us as well.
That's true. If you'd like to go over core infrastructure, I can go over that a little bit with you, no problem.
What structure?
Core infrastructure, city services, and resiliency. So core infrastructure, playgrounds and parks and such would fall into that. And we actually do have a specific parks.
Yeah, parks.
Parks
Seems like parks and open space got a lot of things on the priority.
Yes, they do. Yes. So let me just breeze through the first one really quick, and then we'll go back there because we also still have to go over the budget requests as well. Core infrastructure, runoff water, hazardous materials, sewer capacity. We've had even with the children that appeared before us in the last session regarding quality and pollution of their play area, and they were requesting for it to be an actual playground. So these are things you can actually consider as well. Cleanliness, trash collection receive the most, of course, obviously, under this sector. And then going in through parks.
And just so if you don't know, we have right now 2 sanitation depots in this community. And again, these are big items that will be voted on. You may not hear as much about it, not attending the parks and open space, environment, open space and parks
committee meeting, yes.
Committee, but it's a lot of work that's been done over many years between Metropolitan, this community board, to really address those issues around the sanitation of this community. And we wonder why there's a Jasmine.
And then going back to the parks cultural, and Sage, this is to your point as well, in the extended data, when you look at those who responded access to quality of cultural programming or park safety, they almost always, really or refer to their children. Park care and maintenance, street tree and forest, of course, that's just more specific infrastructure such, but insufficient parks or open space also kind of referring to space availability for your kids.
And many of those parks are attached to schools, so that they're the school playground for the day while they're the public playground afterwards.
So like I said, I'll ask to make sure I can get you guys the raw data, so you can take a look at that if you'd like, just as, make any cross-reference points that you'd like to make, and then bring back to us at a later date or next meeting.
And we have quite a few members that attend both parks and education on this.
Yes,
I think there's
right.
like 5 of us that overlap.
Right. You'll see here, library facilities and access. A lot of them also refer to programs and such for their children. Okay, so I'll move on to the budget requests for fiscal year 25. And
there's more needs, unfortunately, than we can really efficiently handle.
Always.
And it really becomes prioritizing. You know, that's why I want us, as we end then with the new business, is begin to look at the mission and you must forgive me, my computer, I have a more recent mission died and I can't get the stuff off of it. And you know, with changes in the office, sometimes it's hard to find things in other computers, so I thought we would just take an old mission that Khalif had and work from that, and really next month finalize our mission of what we want to do and what we want to focus and concentrate on in the work, and it should be collective of all the members on this school committee. This is not my committee, and I'll hate myself when I say my committee, because it is the community's committee and it's the people's committee.
Okay, can you all see this as best as possible? David, I'll read through it really.
Yeah, you know.
All right, so we have I think we have about maybe 4 or 5 capital requests. Just breeze through them really quick. You all have access to this document, and if anything, I'll make sure I reshare it so you can go through it and add in your recommendations specifically under here. Sorry. Committee notes, revisions, if any. Committee recommendation, David and I will go over that specifically in terms of keep, revise, remove, add new requests, but it'd be great if you guys can add here and add your name after your note, and we'll take that into consideration in terms of what you think.
And if we have questions, we may reach out to you.
Of course.
Regarding each one.
Regarding each one, yes, and remember capital and expense, access to different sheets here. So for first, under capital requests, you have provide technology upgrade. Continue with this hybrid world. As such, this technological equipment must be readily available, repaired, replaced, and upgraded as needed, so there is no interruption in learning. And OMB responded, contact the community board unit at OMB for information regarding this request. So, you know, you can reconsider this for next year. Do you want to revise it? Do you want to keep it? Do you want to remove it? Renovate.
So I want to just give a little context, just so everybody understands. When we say provide technology upgrade, sometimes schools will get the computers and the technology upgrade, but the electricity in the building cannot handle the load. And then it's another level. And what we've learned is you go to one part of DOE for this and another part for that. And if you don't know where to go, you go in circles and get nothing done. And it was very likely one person came from DOE and helped us understand that about 3 years ago. No, it was before COVID, because we were sitting at this table of where you go for each specific kind of ask. Right. So school construction authority is more with the facility and the actual brick and mortar kinds of stuff. But if you need technology upgrade, you don't go to school construction authority. There's another division you have to go through for the electric, and then another one for the technology pieces. And that's often where we fail. Not that we don't have the right intentions, we often don't know which door to open and walk through. Sorry.
It's all right. Second request, renovate interior building component. Funding must be allocated to fully upgrade the bathrooms at the Lexington Academy located at 131 East 104th Street. This project was funded in a prior fiscal year and the construction contract has been let. So staff recommendation would be to remove and clear that out altogether.
One of the other important things is to have principals come here and present on their projects. That reinforces the need for us, and then it allows us to say this was a presentation, it's a need, and we are continuing with it. And I'll tell you, the doors was a big issue and a hard one to get through. And it wasn't until somebody else in the state of education heard the presentation about the doors and then moved it along through the state part of the
What happened with the doors? Were they?
They haven't been changed yet. You know, again, things happen in time. We've got the approval. The bathrooms have been done. And then now they're doing the single bathroom. So they did the major bathrooms last summer. Let me tell you something. We ran summer camp with 400 kids and minimal amount of bathrooms, because the one on the first floor, which has like 10 stalls and this and that, was closed up or something. So, yeah. So it happens. It's contracted. Right now, they're doing the technology in Lexington Academy for cameras in the building. That the principal did on his own, but we are getting new doors. They've already come and measured them. And that was a real serious issue. Kids were getting hurt.
I'm really glad we're getting new doors. I wonder if there's something we can do, because it's kind of cool that the doors are 100 years old, just so that they're not like.
Keep the doors?
Yeah.
No, but I noticed the handles on some of the school doors are those old, they said DOE or school on them, the old brass.
Oh, yeah, those are good. I went to an old school in Brooklyn to put to you like this, the elementary school I went to opened the year the Titanic sank. Okay, 1912, and they used to have these doorknobs that said public school 28, and when they put in the new doors, I don't know what, I would have thought to keep one of those doorknobs, that would be a collector's item. I mean, that's the.
I'm sure they're sitting in the basement of some of the.
Yeah,
buildings.
probably.
All right, continue, I'm sorry.
It's
We got
okay.
commercial breaks in here.
Right, like, let's get to this by 8. All right, next one, renovate interior building component. Funding must be allocated to fully complete necessary, and this is what you were just talking about, wiring upgrades to accommodate for the load that you want these, new appliances. Response from OMB, unable to prioritize funding for this project request at this time. So the recommendation would be to keep. If you all feel like it should be revised for something a little bit more specific, please feel free to note that in the notes there. Second, or excuse me, the next one, renovate interior building component, replace school hallway doors. Is this what you were just speaking of?
Yes, but we keep it until them doors is in.
Sure. So,
It's like,
right.
they say they're coming, but we've known that things can happen.
Right.
And we keep until it's.
So you keep it as you see fit, of course. Renovate interior building component, funding needs to be allocated to make repairs to the pool at DOE building M037, located at 2351 First Avenue. And it's pretty much the same response, unable to prioritize funding for this project request at this time. You can opt to keep, revise, etc., so forth. And then we were just discussing parks, reconstruct or upgrade a park or amenity, repair and upgrade PS 108 Peter Minuet Playground. We had discussed this in our last session. The agency has stated that they will try to accommodate this request with existing resources. So I did have removed because it seems like they're going to be trying to honor it, but you can have that, you keep it there,
What we haven't decided in parts yet what to do with that, right? Because that's one of those overlapping.
Right. At the very minimum, we've compiled the resolutions stating that they support that this project be funded and built. Right, exactly. All right, so that's it for capital budget. We'll do expense. This is a lot. Yeah, just 3. That's right.
So everybody understands the difference between capital and expense, right? Capital is brick and mortar.
Yes.
Expenses program.
Yes. Yeah, more, exactly. Personnel services and so forth. So for example, assign more non-teaching staff to provide social, health, and other services. Additional funding should be allocated to employ additional social workers, not only to provide therapeutic services, but also provide evidence-based groups and case management services. OMB's response, more information is needed from the community board before making a funding decision. The community board should contact the corresponding agency, which is Department of Education. Okay, so you guys can, I have here revised, you guys consider what you want to think about that one. Next, following up, other expense budget requests for DYCD, Department of Youth, Community and Development. Increase the amount of after-school program seats for high school aged youth in East Harlem with a focus on social emotional learning. Special attention should be given to freshmen and sophomores to ensure a smooth transition from remote learning to a new school. The response, presently, there are a variety of agency-funded programs in the district for this target population. Additional programs are contingent upon available funding and will be distributed through the RFP, request for proposal process. Organizations are encouraged to apply. So I have here remove, you can opt to revise it to make it a bit more specific, because it's seeming here that they say, well, we already do that. So, a waste of time kind of thing.
Yeah, the agency responses are interesting sometimes. And they kind of lack, where do you really go then?
Right. Moving on,
The
provide.
best one is when they say funding in part. It's like, well, where's the rest of the
Where's the
part?
rest of the part? And then specifically.
What part is the part coming from?
Right. Provide, expand, or enhance skills training and employment services for high school students at risk of dropping out. Special attention must be paid to high school students at risk of dropping out. However, at-risk youth are generally the hardest to reach. More resources are needed to expand outreach and connect these vital programs to the youth who need the most. Program citing this and the response program citing decisions are based on a request for proposals process, area, needs, and available funding. Sign up at DYCD's website to learn when solicitations for services are released. I have to remove because that response is pretty straightforward, that we already have that here. If there's someone that you think that needs to be able to, that would be able to be applicable for the funding that they have available for that project, recommend them to the DYCD's website. So this request might have to be revised to be a little bit more specific or something of that nature.
I think, you know, part of what we have to do in things like that is how many slots are there actually supporting throughout the city and then specifically in Community Board 11. And then we advocate for more slots for our community.
Right, exactly.
You know,
Right, and fine, and I'll get to a point, you know, just to wrap it up here. This is the last one. Other youth workforce development requests. Increased funding should be allocated to employ additional youth in the Work, Learn, and Grow program to provide more opportunities for employment and to expand career and college readiness for high schoolers. DYCD has increased funding in this service area.
very little.
Very little, right? So
You know, we need more funding.
Yeah.
Because, you know, again, but then we have to make choices again. What are we gonna prioritize as a group? What can we work on as a committee?
yes.
Or as individuals and, you know, sometimes there's limitations. People are committed.
Yes, and I would also recommend, in my humble opinion, as a city employee, a lot of these requests are shot down as, you know, this is not a budget request, because they're really not. If you think, like, you know, you can localize it and think about, say, in your home, you can easily say, I believe money should be placed for food. Well, we all agree about that, but like, you have to be more specific. Let's allocate $100 for fresh food items. Let's allocate $20 for McDonald's. Let's allocate $50 for waters. You know, like, be specific like that. That helps a lot more in terms of like these budget requests. So think specifically that budget. We'd like to see if, you know, a couple of $1 million can be allocated in this district for school playground renovation, that kind of thing. So think more on that kind of level, and you might have a better response rate from O&B. Or maybe that's something a little bit more specific, like, okay, well, we're considering funding for that for the next couple of fiscal years, follow up requests, et cetera, so forth. Like,
I think that's so important. Like, before we used to say all the schools and need these upgrades, but we found, then they write it off.
right,
More study is needed, right?
right,
But if we're more specific in the ask and the specific sites, it helps generate and then follow up. Now, what I've also learned is the principals have their own list that comes through the superintendent, and we get that and we look at it. The superintendent may have her own overview of what the schools need as a priority.
yes,
And then school construction comes in and says, these are the priorities.
yes,
And what's interesting is they only work on 1 and 2 a priority. If it's a 4 priority, it gets put off to the side, unless they might be in that building doing one of those ones, and then they can fix the 4.
Right.
But those 4s and 5 priorities pretty much never get put up to get done unless it's in conjunction at times when they do another big building. Like, I even heard the building I'm in may need to go through roof, and I may be in another building next time, right? Because again, these are those upgrades, but the principal ain't talking about the roof, he's talking about his soccer field, right? And the doors. So again, you have different entities that also play in and determine what are the priorities. Yeah.
See, we also have our top priorities that we have to submit to district planning and, you know, like we work together, obviously, to send it in, but most of the priorities have been ACs in the classroom, ACs in the gym, ACs in the cafeteria. So we have to also listen to all of our 23 schools. You said 23 schools in the
And
district?
it's not just AC, it's the electric.
yeah,
Yeah, and that's the other thing, like, the AC comes with the electric, but not really, because that's another entity.
Right. So we got, as Felice says, we have to be more specific and targeted in this specific ask. So then it's more identifiable as a project.
and maybe to get better responses, no guarantees.
And
No guarantee.
And when you have to choose between using a smart board and having air conditioning, the thing is that because you can't use both, that creates another problem too.
Right.
These 1912 buildings.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. All right, so that's it here for the budget request, guys. I'll make sure you all have access to it in the email. I already I inserted that link, but I'll just let me know if you have accessibility issues. Make sure to, you know, take care of that for you. And please be sure to write in under the yellow highlight areas.
And so at the end of the year, there'll be a summary of all the major projects from all the committees. And then the entire board votes on the priorities that get put forth.
Yes.
And it ain't always necessarily the ones we may have in a committee.
Right.
It's the collective of the board.
Right. Oh, and sorry, yes, come back for next month, October, with your recommendation, because we have to finalize this in October, and then for us to actually submit the whole document to DCP by Halloween's end. So just keeping that on your timeline and radar.
It's a lot of work, and I commend the board office for putting it all together when you oversee several committees, it can get overlapping. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, right. Okay,
So, you know, just continuing, the last order of business is really taking a moment to look at the mission and goals. But before we talk, you know, we have some new members here. We're back live, which is different than being, you know, on the Hollywood squares, like consultant squares. And then not have, you know, a lot of good dialogue sometimes happens after a meeting or interaction with each other. And how we build relationships where I think has been absent over COVID. It's like the meeting ends, screen goes blank, and then we all go about our business in our own world. But it is nice to be in space again with people. I'm a social worker, so you know, I believe in group work space and really looking at things and getting the collective effort. We should bring our diversity and all the things that we think about to the table. We all have unique differences and experiences that can be, you know, the gel that brings us together as a group and molds what we kind of conform and move forward with. And you know, again, I as the chair, yes, my group is to help facilitate, but not to be, it's not my committee, it's our committee, and that the things that we work on should be generated through the consensus of this group. I am a strong-willed person, I put myself out there. I'm a Pisces, there's two of me, I can be as quiet as can be, and I can be as loud as I need to be. But one of the things I've learned often is that if you take the word silent and you mix the letters around, you get listen. And sometimes you need to be silent to be an effective listener and to facilitate a community of diversity. You really need to spend some time listening to what people and the pulse of the community, and I value that. Again, I'm always looking to interject and bring more youth on as the youth in education, but I do want to say this, don't get confused, this is not just the youth committee, the education part is not just around youth, it's around education for adults as well, and higher learning on different levels. Reverend Scott has brought, you know, and talked about the program that he operates for adults coming into the community and working with the community, and those spirits, and have done presentations. So again, the spirit as we move forward should be the one that's collective. Thank you for sharing, Raul, and bringing the work. I mean, you really opened up what the process was for selecting, and you know, a lot of CBOs don't do that. And they go with who they think is best. So the fact that the process is taken and it's an open process speaks very loud to the community and the work that y'all done here, as well as yourself, Raul, as we've gotten to work together. You know, so we've done a lot of good things. My goals in this committee is to bring youth on and to work on reinforcing our education and social emotional learning for youth. So what I thought is, you know, maybe if you go to any time period you want, where would you go back to? What age would you go back to and why? And maybe you want to go forward. I don't know. So I'll just start so it gives people something. You know, and again, sometimes reference can be at the moment of where we are, but for right now, if I can go back to a time, it would be in the end of middle school, beginning of high school. It was a great period of time, you know, mid-70s. I was loving it. The hip hop, 50 years was out there. I actually went to school with Kool Herc's brother in middle school, you know, so I DJ'd many years in hip hop myself. But I would want to go back to that period because that's the period when my mother passed away when I was a teenager in high school. And, you know, I was living and, you know, mom was sick and dying, and that was part of my life. And, you know, not that I would do things differently, but I would like to spend that time with her again that I didn't have. But I'm committed to youth, so I also want, you know, that other kind of thing that ties in the work with youth. I'm committed to well, yeah, why don't everybody just, what brings you here? Why, you know, what's your spirit? What age would you go back to as a youth and why?
Pass the baton.
Pass the baton down, Rosa.
Well, I will go to a specific year, 1999, because I was still in my country, and I guess we'll spend more time with my family, so I don't have any family here. Spend more time with them.
pass the baton to you. I can follow up that. I don't know if you consider this youth, but I have a reasoning behind it, so hopefully it counts.
Yeah.
I would say like just my undergraduate, which wasn't too long ago, but I think like for me, like the sense of community, I went to Ohio State, go Buckeyes. And I think like that was the first time I went to like a school where I had like a real sense of community with like everyone, and there was just like so many different organizations and things to get involved with. So I think that can relate to like youth as well, because like it would be great if I would have found that like earlier, but I didn't until college. So like that's something I'm interested in bringing to like the youth place. Like how can we bring that community feeling to these elementary schools we have here?
And pass it to, you can point, we don't know everybody's name either. Leslie.
I go way back. I think I would go back to middle school. I was in the first graduating class of IS 201, 1968. So I would redo middle school. I would have allowed myself to stay on track to be tested to go to Brooklyn Tech, Science, and those schools. I would review more of the private schools that I was recruited to go to, as opposed to staying around the block. I think that could have, I survived it. But I think, I wonder what would I be like if I had taken those experiences. I'm born and raised in Lincoln Projects, 135th, 132nd Street, in the middle of all of that. And I survived it. So I'm an outsider on the inside, while being an insider for those on the outside. So I would like that to see what that transition would have been. And I'm an athlete, so I would have seen if I excelled in the jungle, I could have probably done exceedingly well outside of it.
And that's deep, because I feel the same way. I stayed home. I went to Martin Luther King with my friends instead of going to Bronx Science. And you know, the choices sometimes we make. But I'd rather go back and see my mom than go to Bronx Science. I had fun. I had fun at King. That's what I learned at hip hop. Who you want to pass it to, us?
Thank you, everybody, for sharing that as much as you shared. I think since we're going deep, I would go back about to 2004, so that's about 19 years ago when I got my associate's degree. I had come home from my first bid. I did a 1 to 3, and I came home in 2002, and I got into school, and I finished it in 2004. And that summer, I ended up going back into the streets after graduating. And the reason I went back into the streets was because I didn't have money for my cap and gown. Of course, I that was the reason I justified the starting. You know, the continuing was all me. But I think I would go back to that time to just be more patient with the process after school, because I could have done a lot more, you know, and I have to spend so much time, you know, because after that, the next bid was 9 years, right? And so that took a lot, and then for me to come home, and yeah, I graduated, you know, now, but it's like I could have been with that. I could have been having my bachelor's. I could have been did a lot of stuff. So I think that I would go back and be a little bit more patient with the process.
Yeah, we young and dumb.
Yeah.
Who you want to pick?
I'm gonna throw that too. We'll keep it going in a second.
Oh, thank you, Isaac. Well, I'll say this. The thing is that I can't say a particular year, but I do have a particular time period. I would like to go back to between 1968 and 1978. I graduated from middle school in Ocean Hill, Brownsville, in Brooklyn. Because I lived in Bed-Stuy. And IS 55. It's not even there anymore. I went to a high school that was an experimental high school, John Dewey High School in Bensonhurst. You got to choose on classes like you were in college. So that basically prepared me for college to put to choose my classes. And I went to Queens College and I graduated with a degree in communications, with a degree I didn't use until last year. But the thing is that, but those 10 years, the thing is that I see the person that I became and how I was able to take care of myself, make my own decisions. And it's probably the period of my life I'm probably most proud.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you everybody for sharing. I haven't lived that long. So, let me see.
Can't go back too far. Right?
Yeah, it's just like you guys. I guess I would go back to my freshman year of high school. Honestly, I'm really happy with my life right now. I wouldn't change anything, but just to like relive some of those experiences and like be who I was at that time. And that would have been in 2011, 2012.
So glad you're part of our youthful part of the committee, right? We need, again, this committee should be of stages and ages, right? And I always believe in wisdom and experience is a lot. But you also need wet and green behind the ears and innovative new ideas to help some of us old people move a little quicker sometimes, that there's other ways to do things. And I can't tell you how I rely on so many of my 22 to 30-year-old staff with technology that I just don't have that skills. So, we all have the worth of what we bring to the table and all have, and again, that's why it's so important. Forgive me, as a social worker and group worker, it's important to understand and know people and, how do we bring together? How do we find a common thread that makes us stronger as a group than as the individuals we all are? So, your universe is like my universe is me. I'm in your universe, you're in my universe. Right? So
Thank you.
it's infinite, right? I'm sorry, say.
I'll pass it to you. I don't know your name yet.
Kareem. So my name is Kareem. It's nice to meet you guys. Thank you guys for having me, and I'm very honored to be a part of this board. Very similar. I haven't really lived that long, but I would say I would definitely like to go back to a time period of my high school days. Just because like I'm starting to realize now how powerful just my personal testimony is and to continue to walk with it. And I feel like around that time period, I was conforming myself to social norms and what was cool at the time to where I kind of ignored who I truly was. And I wasn't around a crowd that I should have been around, or maybe I was, I can't say that, but I wasn't around the crowd that will help me excel to where, my relationships was beneficial. And I can see how that affects me now. And sometimes I think about it, but I know that it made me who I'm supposed to be now.
What I often find is I grow more from my mistakes. I wouldn't say failures. And, because that's the top opportunity for learning and growth, right? Success feels good, right? And we can relish in it. But sometimes it's the struggle, that and getting past that and recognizing where you've been and where you're going and then where you want to go, and past get diverted. I've had a lot of diversions myself and I was 17, my mother died, I was 19 living on my own. Yeah, that thing's been going whack. Go ahead, Charles. Sorry.
But I agree with everything you said, and plus, everybody goes through stuff in life. But the thing is, the most important thing is when you come out the other side, that you live to tell the tale.
Mhm.
Because if you live to tell the tale, somebody may listen. And they may avoid what you went through. So you're basically passing on something by living to tell the tale.
Well, I don't think you getting out of this.
Alright, I like to pass the baton.
Right.
Well, I'm keeping it quick. If I would go back to any point in time, it would probably be my undergrad, just to just shake myself, slap myself, like, what are you doing? Kind of, because I had no interest or no sense of direction in terms of a career. And I believe I put that on myself, of course, but I know it's the shoulda, coulda, woulda. If I did that, if I could have done this, maybe I'd be at this point earlier and so forth. But we saw the Flash movie, so it probably ended up working out as it has should be. So we're all here for a reason, and just take that knowledge and do better. That's what we can do. Raul?
Yes, Raul. Come on, you can make it. I'm saying.
Everybody in the room.
I mean, I guess. I'm born and raised in the Bronx, so I think about like all the programs that our kids get to be a part of, and the fact that each is around for 65 years, and there are other organizations in the Bronx, and I remember going home and that. So I would have taken that part of and pulled the bill.
Thank you, everybody, for sharing. We are all in this space together.
We forgot one.
Well, there's one more.
Oh, yeah. Where do you want to go back to? You've been listening, right? You gotta listen for 2 years when you in here.
Not the belly time.
Right.
To the belly.
Go back to the crib.
Yes, for real. You went to elementary.
No, not for real, back to the belly. For real with you.
Middle school, you're in high school now.
If you can go back and do something that you enjoy doing, what would you do again?
I'll go back to the freshman year, because I was kind of hanging around the wrong crowd. So I would make better choices, get out with different people.
He's ready for it.
Thank you for sharing.
Thank you. So what I want to do is just very quickly kind of read some of where we were at, and then we'll end it, and then we'll come back next month. Get this together as a group, look at it before you come back, so that we can look at making adjustments and changes. That's
Coalition. Okay, I'll pull it up here as well, so everybody can see it.
So this was old, some of these things are continuous. The Youth and Education Committee goals identified, this was 2020, so this was like when COVID hit and everything went crazy and we were on screen. Increased youth attendance and participation in CB11 and Education Committee. That's been an ongoing issue. We continue to do it. But there was also some work thought about creating a youth task force. And it's just been a challenge. In COVID, maybe coming out COVID is something we could really work on moving forward. Conduct community board forums that address the needs of youth. Our chair did reach out to me yesterday and kind of wants us to work on maybe a youth symposium. I kind of directed them back to doing the work with the open space and parks and doing work around advocacy in our community around the health issues that we did last year on Earth Day and participated in that event. So that's not limited to that. Conduct activities and advocate to support the needs of youth. And it should be youth and adults. So, again, sometimes we have to look at how we go over that. The mission statement is the Youth and Education Committee advocates for funding, programs, and policies that benefit youth. We advocate for youth leadership, academic excellence, and knowledge of social justice issues in our community. We seek to develop and maintain positive relationships with all local stakeholders. We strive and direct the voice to youth of the community and to assist them and consistent with our mission and goals. Now, a mission with a committee that evolves should be an evolving mission. It should not be static. It should change as the members, again, while there are core needs in our community, many of us are more driven by certain kinds of issues that kind of add that extra layer of advocacy or interest or, even in research. And I have to say, I commend this committee last year and how we went through a diligent process to explore all assets of how a service may impact our community, affect our community, and what stake it has. And we had some very different opinions. And I would never want us to be yes, and we go yes around here without somebody saying, hey, this ain't right, or this is not what I see. We still may not agree in the long run, but it's our due diligence to the community, for those that don't speak, that we make sure that we cover. And I say from one side of the pendulum to the other, because if we don't, we miss something and we cut something off in between that really may impact a larger part of the population. Again, even surveys, it's who responds, those are the issues. That doesn't mean we've hit on the real issues of the community, or we may have missed some. So please look at these things. This is a new document we will start from with this committee. Again, I kind of look at it going in every year, but every 2 years, as we have a new chair, we'll be starting a new chair, possibly. And I don't mean we're gonna vote Xavier out. I mean, we have the process of the chair.
The election times.
And again, so you do know the chair is the one that determines, the chair of the board is the one that determines the chair of committees. And I pride myself in working with both chairs I go to, or those that I didn't, and that have allowed me to continue to work as the leader of this committee. My goal is not to stay the leader of this committee with the new chair coming in, and it is eventually to turn it over to Asher Rodriguez as a youth person. And I think too many of us who are older in leadership positions sometimes think that we can't let go of the position until we're ready to let go. I truly believe in elevating and putting that person in that seat and standing by them and helping guide them and support them, in that process. So my goal, and Asher's not here today, is to help fortify and help that young person eventually take over this committee. And I will play more of the background role. I mean, I ain't background in whatever I do, but
We know.
But again, we only create leadership and hand it over. And I've had a lot of good role models, both male and female, who have elevated me. Yes.
I'd just like to thank you for that, because as a young professional, I've definitely been recognizing I've faced a little bit of, I think it's ageism is the right term. Just in terms of my just some of the ideas that I have with just me trying to navigate moving up. So I appreciate leaders like you, and there's a lot of leaders in East Harlem with that mentality as well. So I definitely appreciate that.
No, thank you. And again, I joined Children's Aid as a kid. My mother died as a teenager. There was people there that guided me when my father couldn't at times, and I had a good dad. I'm not saying he was absent, but he had his own needs at that time. And sometimes, again, I take mentoring very seriously. I mean, I looked up to Russell in the community as well, and other people that Russell grew up with that were my mentors. And Kelsey Stevens, who I started Children's Aid to celebrate 50 years, September 17th. And he sent me a picture when I was 13 years old, looking like Danny Partridge with him and a group of other kids.
Oh my gosh.
In 1975.
I'd like to say something, now,
Yes.
because you mentioned it, we're talking to the young ones. What happens is, I happen to be, I believe, the longest standing board member in Community Board 11. So I know where a lot of bodies are. So I was a younger person, senior people. And it has to be where, when I was in your seats, I used to say to other guys and ladies in seats, hear my voice, because the world that I'm inheriting, want to inherit, and I can be it. So I'm looking at it in that senior position now, and how younger people need to have their voice, but it has to be back and forth. Because where you have innovation and foresight, imagination in a blind way, we have experience. And sometimes we could say, you know what, when you walk through that door, it's not gonna be a floor in it. You might not believe it. That's why we have this tension, because we want to stop you from going in there. Because you believe what you believe, we know what we know. So it has to be a back and forth, and in order to have growth, we have to have them. So in hindsight of what we just did, I think we all would reflect back in that exercise and say, in separate, and because we live life in phases, in periods, I believe we all would go back to each period and say that we do different. What opportunities that we receive and what the world will be like. So it has to be a back and forth. I grew up in the midst of all the revolutions. The revolution was live. The Harlem that I see now, I have a daughter that's 36 years old. And I have to, I'm trying to find a Cher, Superfly, those movies, because the Harlem that you see, you've never really seen poverty. You've seen a renovated, upscale Harlem. You haven't seen.
There were no banks.
No banks.
No banks.
This Park Avenue, that was like, I don't know if you experienced the Lancey Street as we did. So there's a whole thing. So when we fight for things, you're already fighting for your dreams. Like, you know what, that was fun, isn't it? So we're trying to hold on to communities that we grew up and we love. And there are people who need to see those improvements while they're here when we talk about gentrification. So it's gotta be a back and forth without resistance. I mean, it's like friendly. The politics that we live in the world right now is different. When of the past now, we used to be living in a different political party. We might have differences at the table, but then we can go out and have drinks together. Now, we know where we live in now. So this is a learning experience, and sometimes I'm in the reverse. I don't talk as much because I want to hear. Your time is, but we're gonna, if we're responsible, if we are responsible, we just provide solid guidance. And hopefully that you're listening and trying to figure out if it'll work for you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I would say, unless there's any other announcements or items. Yes,
Let's go.
What could be now? I am a member of the election committee, which we will be accepting nominations for different positions on the board. And that will start probably, and it'll probably go next month. If you're interested in running for an office, or you nominate somebody, the thing is that Xavier will let you know when to do so, and it will be submitted to us. Because I believe there's 3 other people on this committee. You and I believe Nelson Roberts also.
Sure.
So the thing is, so you are the group, so we're the people who's going to just put forth the ground rules for the election. So you'll be hearing from us within the next few weeks. Thank you.
Thank you, John. And we have Sage.
The election, is it just like we raise our hands at the meeting, or?
No. It is done at the November full board meeting, and the thing is that we fill out a ballot. You put it in a box, the committee counts the votes, and you find out who wins before you go.
Yeah. Just so you all do know, it is a public vote. In the previous years, but prior to doing the ballot, you would get up and you'd say who you vote for publicly. Also understand this, the ballots are also at the end of the meeting are published at that night. So there's transparency, people will know who you vote for. So don't think it's a secret ballot. They just did a secret so people don't feeling less uncomfortable standing up and calling out names. And sometimes people would read the room and they know they go last, they might change their votes. So this way, it kind of makes it a more fair process in that way and more transparent, but your vote is. Angel will post the votes that night.
And think twice about promising somebody, then you vote for somebody else.
Right. And we still take it.
We have
Ryan. Okay, let's go to Ryan.
Dying to speak the entire time. Thank you so much, y'all. Okay, so again, just to introduce myself, and there's one person in the room that already knows me because they met me at the previous committee meeting. But again, my name is Ryan Preto. I'm the community school director at PS 96, proudly serving on 120th Street in East Harlem. And this is actually one of the boards that I had applied to join. I actually had submitted an application months ago during the summer. I was coming into my role as a community school director, and one of the reasons I came on board was, one, to listen to y'all's perspectives, but as I was seeing the spreadsheet, being like, man, I wish 96 had some representation on the spreadsheet, and I would love to join you all, whether it be again as a person sitting down or even someone in the audience that can contribute. whenever possible. I have experience mainly in Queens. This is my first rodeo in East Harlem, but I'm a proud Hispanic individual that has a lot of energy and is just super excited to hang out with y'all and get to know a little bit more about the community and the kids that we serve. So is there a possibility for me to join or even just be
These are
there in
public
person?
meetings.
Yes.
These are public meetings. Everybody's welcome to join. You're also welcome to join as a public member. We've had members that have been public members before becoming board members. I did not get on the board the first time I applied. I had to reapply the next year. So it's a process. What's good is I've learned that it's good to make a presence so that you're already known to the board when you apply. Come and attend meetings. I would say come and attend the full board, attend other meetings that you may have interest in, and see where you best, if you're a new community school director, we would love to have you come do a short presentation on the school. So that's another possibility. You could reach out to Khalid and he can send you the presentation form and we could set up a presentation to inform. I also know that there is a new principal at Capital Prep and who wants to come before the board and meet with us as well. And we know that there's been some history with Capital Prep in the community, and we want to support any school in our community to help them be successful. So please, Ryan, you're more than welcome to reach out and come and do a short presentation on the school and begin to work with us. This is an open community forum. Everybody's welcome.
Ryan,
Absolutely.
did you mention public school 96? Did I hear that incorrectly?
Yeah, it's PS96M, PSMS96M, 120th Street.
Oh, okay, because I am the community education council. I represent all the 23 schools, just in case. I'm like, wait a minute, what are you talking about? I am here. But
Yeah,
yes, I am here.
if you want, you can also reach out to me. I would drop out my email, but unfortunately the chat's disabled.
Oh.
So if the chat wasn't disabled, I'd totally give you my email and we can connect and have further discussions. But you know what? It's all right, y'all.
Ryan,
You all are great.
if you could reach out to Khalid, he's the assistant district manager. He's the liaison for this committee and other committees as well. If you reach out to him, he can get us all your information.
Do you think if you were able to open the chat, do you think you could drop that email so that I can go ahead and draft an email?
Yeah, Ryan, I'm putting in our email right now directly to you. Let me know if you get it.
Perfect. I can see it right there. I'll go ahead and take note, and I will try to send out an email tomorrow.
Great, Ryan. We look forward. We will send you a presentation form and we can have you come before the committee and present.
Thank you so much.
Any last thoughts? Any last?
Xavier has his hand.
Oh, Xavier. Xavier, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. And with Ryan's comment, if you're applying through the borough president's office, which happens at the start of each year, that they handle those appointments and applications, but there's interest to join a committee, the chair can handle those appointments. So you mentioned an application going through. I don't know if that was directly through the office. I haven't seen one, but we will double check on that. But if it was through appointment through the BP's office, then yes, they handle those directly. And I would recommend showing up to the committee meetings of interest and showing interest in leaning in, and that will that favors well during the application process. So thank you for being here in this space, and look forward to actually meeting you here in the neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you, Xavier. And Xavier, we will ask you really quickly, since we asked everybody here, what age would you go back to if you could go back?
That's a loaded question, my friend. There are too many in the multiverse, or as Khalid alluded to in the Flash in the DCEU. I can't say I would necessarily change anything, but if I had to go back, it's when between my junior and senior years, I transitioned, and I didn't know how many moments I had when my uncle came to stay with us during the '96 Olympics in Atlanta. And it was unbeknownst to me that he was in the last stage of AIDS. And I remember many a summer chats with him where he taught me a great many life lessons that I have taken into this moment, and I think some of them I've shared with you, David, and a few others that I just want one more day, and that's it. And that's why I encourage everyone to lean in. I'm sorry, I'm just thinking about it again. And that's kind of a lot of the lessons he left with me is why we fight, and why I feel what Rosa and so many others around the table express, from Kareem and Isaac and like everyone. I'm feeling the energy. So thank you for sharing those moments. And I think, and like Russell and I've had deep chats, and everyone at the table. And I look forward, I think sharing those moments will create a greater affinity. And I think we should not lose track of that. And that's what, David, thank you for giving space for that. You and I have always had immense conversations since we got on the board, like almost 14, 15 years ago or whatever it was. So I value that very much, but I think one more day, one more moment. And that's what I think as we lean into this cycle of service. And what I'd like to impart to everyone is the knowledge that we have gathered, and people from mentors such as Francis Mastroda, Joe Goldblum, Sergio Ramirez, people who have transitioned. I want to pass on that knowledge to everyone, because that's where the work continues for our community. So thank you, everyone. I'll be quiet now. Emotion is nothing more than energy in motion. So thank you. Have a great one. I look forward to all the great recommendations for the Statement of District Needs and Budget. I can't wait to see everyone at full board at the Dream Charter School. So thank you, and have a great evening. Get home safe.
Thank you all. I really appreciate the sharing and the openness, and again, sometimes those things help us break down certain barriers that sometimes people support. Again, like I said, I want us to look at things from all sides. I want the diversity of the opinions, and we make collective decisions on what we focus. Try to come up with at least 2 things that you think are pertinent things that we should focus on as goals for next, and then we'll wean them out and come up with a plan for the year.
So what are we doing September 30th? In the back,
Well, I'm gonna be playing the music.
Are we
We'll have a
taking,
table for children's aid.
are we taking
So I DJ.
community for 11 members or no?
No, well, we should
I
have a
think
few. Look, let me tell you something. What they've done to me is I had the DJ table, then I got over here the table which says children's aid and community board 11. And I stick staff there, but we should have members of this committee there. The CEC is always there strong too. It's a fun event, wonderful event. Come and share. I'll be working that day. You got kids, bring them out.
Definitely. There's gonna be a lot of goodies.
So we have to do a roll call to adjourn?
Yes. Yeah. All right, member. Kareem Kauser. Kareem Kauser.
Present.
Rosa Diaz.
Present.
David Giordano.
Present.
John Green.
Out.
Any Angela absent, Christina Johnson excused, Sage Mason,
Here.
Jennifer Meyer,
Here.
Asher Rodriguez excused, Isaac Scott,
Howard John.
Russell Schuler. All right, thank you.
Thank you all. Look forward to seeing everybody full board. It's gonna be live.
Oh, actually, I see a